We are back with a fresh edition of the Valley's most in-depth weather forecast video. We call it Weather for Weather Geeks, and it's Tuesday evening, the 11th day of June. And how cool was Monday? Well, today was 10 degrees warmer than Monday, but still 9 degrees below the average. So we did a lot better today, but it was still more like late April rather than early June. 69 at the airport today after a very April 10th-like 59 on Monday. Don't worry, though. Much more seasonable weather for the next couple of days, and then we've got some serious heat coming our way, it looks like, for next week, which we'll talk about momentarily. But first, to look back in weather history on today's date, it was not the heat, but the cold that was the story on today's date. In 1972, we had a low of 30 degrees on today's date in 1972, easily the latest freeze on record for our area during the spring and early summer season. Second place is like May 27th, so a good couple of weeks difference between the second latest and the absolute latest freeze on record. And also on today's date, back in the very wet summer of 1986, the wettest summer on record for us, we had the 10th wettest day on record, at least currently in 10th place at 3.57 inches on June 11th, 1986. We had several pretty wet days that summer in 1986, but no wet weather out there today locally. Our eye is certainly drawn to Florida, though, and this will be the big national weather story in the short term. All this rain in central and especially southern Florida. Really, really crummy weather in Key West and Miami and places in between, Fort Myers area included. I think there's going to be some double-digit rainfall totals, especially in this part of Florida, that's kind of the southwestern corner, between now and the weekend. This is with a semi-tropical-ish system, and what I mean by that is this is never going to become a hurricane, or probably not even a tropical storm, but there's a plume of tropical moisture streaming into southern Florida. Now, this may eventually become something that gets a name once the center of circulation moves out into the open Atlantic, but for the time being, it's just a rich plume of tropical moisture giving all sorts of rain to the southern part of the Sunshine State. All right, let's talk about how the pattern's going to evolve in the coming days and even weeks. One of the key components of our seasonal forecasts, including in the winter and the summer, ocean water temperatures, because ocean water temperatures can be a driver of the atmosphere. And vice versa. The atmosphere makes the ocean do things, and the ocean makes the atmosphere do things. And when we have this kind of configuration in the Pacific Ocean, where a very warm tongue of water is out here, but it's cool up here, cool down here, this configuration specifically, especially when it's as stout of a configuration as it is right now, is very significantly, statistically significant, I should say, as far as predicting a hot summer across North America, and especially in the middle of the North American continent. So if this signal continues, in other words, if the ocean water temperatures continue to look like this for the coming weeks, we are expecting a pretty hot summer to verify, and that's been our forecast for a while now, and we kind of expect that to verify if nothing really changes here. Now, if this warm water really overtakes a lot of the cold banked up against North America, then the heat may recenter itself out west. But at this point, we'll believe it when we see it. This is a very stout signal. It's what we call the Pacific Decadal Oscillation, and right now it's in its negative phase. It's as strongly negative as it gets, really, for this time of the year. It tends to be this level of negative more in the winter season than in the summer season. So the heat's going to build. Now, we'll get a seasonably warm day on Wednesday and Thursday, a couple of seasonably warm days. Then temperatures are trimmed a little bit for Friday and Saturday. Then it's full tilt summertime as we go towards Father's Day and beyond. So you're going to see the heat build back in, first across the Corn Belt and then across the lower Great Lakes into the Ohio Valley early on next week. Now, we could be talking heat index values across parts of Iowa and Missouri up around 115 or something like that early next week. The corn crops out there lead to a lot of what we call evapotranspiration, and so you can get dew points in the middle of those cornfields that are up around 80 degrees or so, something we almost never see around here. But when you get dew points in the upper 70s to around 80 with actual temperatures well up into the 90s, you can get some heat index values that are just tremendous in the Corn Belt. And again, because we don't live in the Corn Belt in eastern Ohio and western PA, we tend not to see dew points and heat index values that high. But locally, our heat index early next week may top out pretty close to 100. We are expecting temperatures to be at or above 90 early next week, and perhaps all the way through the end of next week. We might even flirt with 90 as early as Sunday on Father's Day, but if we don't get there Sunday, chances are we will get there Monday and into Tuesday with enough of an increase in those dew points that the heat index will be probably between 95 and 100, not just for a day or two, but maybe 3, 4, even 5 days. And last year in 2023, we only had 2 90-degree days the whole year. We average about 8 as far as the 30-year average. But you can see there's some big variations here. We had 18 in 2012 and in 2018. We had a hot summer in 2020. Even 2 years ago in what was, not a super hot summer, we had 10 90-degree days that year and only 2 last year. We made double last year's 90-degree temperatures all in 1 week next week. So yeah, 4 or 5 straight days of 90s on the table at this early stage. In the meantime, what a great forecast we have coming our way Wednesday. It'll be a bright and sunny afternoon. Warm front lifts in. We'll get well into the 80s on Thursday. I'm not buying what the model is showing here Thursday morning with a band of showers moving across northern Ohio. I think that's spurious on account of the model here. At this point, we are keeping a dry forecast until later Thursday night into Friday morning with the approach of this front. It's not going to be able to squeeze out much, but there could be a spotty shower or storm. We're going to allow for that chance of a shower or storm at any point on Friday, but it's probably most likely in the morning with the passage of our front. In the wake of that front, a beautiful Friday evening, and we've got a great weekend forecast, although, again, getting pretty hot by Father's Day. And it's going to be hot at this point. What about precipitation? I do think that it's largely a dry pattern for the next week or so. Now, there may be, as the heat builds in early next week, there may be some thunderstorms trying to cascade south and eastward in the heat and increasing humidity. But at this point, it's not a strong enough signal that we can really hang our hat on that. Overall, the pattern looks hot and largely dry. Not totally dry, probably, but largely dry for at least the next week with pretty few precipitation chances at this point. So if you've been mowing your yard once a week now for a couple of months, you may be able to change that cadence a little bit as we go deeper into summer. I know I've been mowing my yard every week for a while now, and I'm looking forward to maybe doing it once every couple of weeks as we get into this hot pattern into June and July. That'll do it for me on Weather for Weather Geeks tonight. Thanks as always for watching, everyone. I'll see you back here on Wednesday.